Thank you. And again, thank you for this hearing. I think it is an exciting time for us. I thank all of you for the conversation and the information that you have provided. I do believe we are at the dawn of a new age with the potential for blockchain technology, and we cannot squander it. We have an opportunity right now to invest in the R&D for the very reasons that you all have identified. And I appreciate the conversation, and we'll follow up with respect to what we can do at a federal level, but there is a role for the states to play as well. And we've talked a little bit about that. I'm proud that Nevada is one of the leading states in the nation encouraging the growth of the blockchain applications. For instance, in Nevada, our state legislature recently passed a bill incentivizing blockchain startups to locate their businesses in the state, and that had the support of our governor as well, our current governor. It is an exciting time. But let me talk a little bit about some of my concerns and how you can help us address this. We talked about the architecture, and we talked about the framework. And as we build out this framework and we do the R&D, we talked about cybersecurity and security in general, which I think is an important guardrail that we start looking at and putting in place as we build out this infrastructure instead of trying to layer it on after the fact, which is much more difficult. But one thing we haven't talked about yet is the privacy component. So let me open it up all to you. What privacy considerations should be examined for consumers using digital currency or other blockchain applications? Please.
If I may speak to that, Senator. With cryptocurrencies, consumers have sort of a privacy dilemma, which is that they can interact with other individuals and businesses using cryptocurrencies without providing their real name. However, all of the transactions that they make are permanently recorded on this public database in a way that they cannot take back. As we've heard, you cannot go back and modify the blockchain records later, which means that if a consumer's identity at any point gets associated with any one of their transactions on the blockchain, then it can further be linked to all of the transactions that they have made using a cryptocurrency. This is a very new type of system. It's not like the credit card system. With credit cards, we don't really have the danger that all of my credit card transactions ever are going to be publicly displayed with my name attached to it on the internet. We don't quite know how to manage this privacy dilemma from a consumer perspective. A lot of research is happening. For example, there are newer blockchains which try to hide all information from public view. However, that raises other questions. If those blockchains get adopted, how can law enforcement, for example, still do their job? And so I don't think we've quite figured out an answer yet, which is both technologically sound, which is usable for consumers, and also meets the legitimate needs that we have for law enforcement and investigative purposes. Definitely very much a work in progress.
Thank you. Doctor?
Yeah, I think that we didn't really have a chance to get into the technology of the digital object architecture, but as I stated earlier, blockchain is one example of a digital object, but just one. And yet, I know the focus of this hearing is on blockchain, and so that's why most of the questions are about it. But I think if you look at this issue more broadly, for example, the question of managing information shows up all the time in the Research Data Alliance. This is something the US and the European Union and Australia set up where many people who deal with very large data sets are worrying about how to curate it, share it, protect it, secure it, and the like. And within that context, the notion of blockchain almost never shows up because it is one choice, and as they look at their needs, they don't see that as the critical initial thing. Within the digital object architecture, every aspect of it can be self-identified. For example, every individual can have an identity, including anonymous, that could be an identity. Every system can have an identity. Every piece of information can have an identity. And that's how privacy is generated. So if it were a health record that you were looking for, part of that health record would say the following identifier for people are appropriate, or programs or whatever, to access this information. So privacy is essentially inherently built in. But by asking the question only about blockchain, it seems to me that you omit all of the other potential applications that might be useful in society for which blockchain may not be the solution. This is not to take a position for or against it, as I've said before, But with the focus here only on blockchain, I think you need to understand that there's a broader universe of applications of which blockchain is exactly one option.
Okay, thank you. I notice my time is up. Thank you again for the conversation.